Sup dogs, name's TheOdie and I am the developer of Caster's Trap. Perhaps the most cliche thing about horror games is the notes. And you know what? I get it. Horror tends to rely on history, and history is usually best told with notes. But the thing is, I hate notes. Or rather, I used to as a child. I was kind of just more so into the action or the cutscenes. My brain was quite smooth back then. So I devised what I thought was absolute genius. Granted, it was 2020, and you know what? I thought it was very exciting. I'll even say it was quite clever. How does this denote cleverness? Because you see, magic is a fantastic thing. Pretty much anything can happen with magic. Teddy bear transforming into a monster? Magic. Room that leads into an alternate dimension? Sure. Magic. Or perhaps the best thing yet, instead of reading notes, watching notes. Magic. In Caster's Trap, there are these crystal shards that I call memory stones. You can probably guess what they did, but if the player spends time focusing on them, they share a moment in history, sort of like if the stones recorded the moment like a camera. In lore, the stones were used to store the magical essence in a given location, kind of like a fingerprint you can say. If focused, that energy gets absorbed by the user and the stone will replay itself. In the case of the game, I made it so that the player could re-watch these scenes whenever they felt like it, but lore-wise in the game, it was a one-time use sort of thing. Kind of like if the stones were to absorb energy and then release all of it, but then you were the one who absorbed all that energy. But of course, this is a puzzle horror game, so I wanted to add some level of gameplay to it. What I best came up with was a maze. If you didn't watch the first episode, then do check it out. But to just recap it real quickly, you're playing as an average Joe Schmo teenager who just stumbles into a magical cabin where the player also discovers magic, starting off very small, but of course expands more into their own reality. Anyway, I thought that traveling through a maze and finding activation points to be a perfect comparison to discovering magic. So as it turns out, the player just discovered that they hold magic inside of them, and that orb he is holding acts like a tool to help use the magic between him and connected with the surrounding magic around him, or in the crystals. Seriously, how perfect is it? It just worked so well thematically and in the script. I actually added this part after, while playtesting. I felt like the game was moving a little bit too fast and I wanted to add a little bit more to viewing these memories. So then I thought about it, did it, and then to further emphasize the idea of searching and losing oneself, as a complete newbie to magic mind you, is that there was a timer that was represented by the growing fog. Again, using symbolism of searching and getting lost, and of course, honing one's ability. Mechanically speaking, this was very easy to make, and the background was a hidden timer. Hidden timers, by the way, all in here. I made a tutorial. Check it out. And each stone acted as a checkpoint to reset a bit of that timer. Then of course I needed to add a display HUD to show how many checkpoints remained. This whole idea started with a maze. Like, in general, I absolutely hate mazes in video games, but the unique thing about RPG Maker, or I guess in this top-down perspective of a pixelated game, is that you get to see where you are going. And kind of growing up as a kid, I remember doing a lot of those puzzles or mazes, worksheet sort of things. And at first, I thought they were so lame because they were so easy to do. I was able to see exactly where I was going. But at the same time, going through mazes in first person or third person in a video game absolutely sucked. As it turns out, I find that mazes are pretty interesting if you have an overall view of where it is that you gotta go. Kind of like if there was a map. And then that made me realize, RPG Maker can only see a small portion of it. But what if you could zoom out? That is right, one press of a button and the player can zoom out to see the whole thing. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, then please consider subscribing. There's a few more videos for the rest of this series. Now, admittingly, timers stress people out. They always do. But there was no avoiding it if I wanted to give the players a challenge. Not to mention that it coincided with a thought of remaining focused, finding the path to unlock the memories, but of course, losing yourself. There was one issue I did have with this though, and it was I needed 7 memories. 7 small stories to tell a cohesive story. The background story between the master and her apprentice. But the issue is not figuring out what those stories were. It was the fact that I would have to make 7 mazes. And there's only so far you can go when it comes to repetition. After all, is my heart so dark and cruel to make my player go through 7 mazes? Of course it is. But I know better. Instead, I had my player go through 3, and the remaining 4 required the player to piece together the shards into one big stone. I still remember watching playthroughs of this, and people going, oh, this again, by the second time, and then the third time, they're like, alright, let's do this. And then once they picked up the 4th memory stone, thinking that they'll have to jump into this again, they are prompted with something different. Look of constipation. Now, if you haven't played Catch This Trap, I'll reveal what I decided to do in a little bit, but first I do want to talk a bit about repetition. You see, when it comes to repetition, unless it's a game mechanic, like say Five Nights at Freddy, where you're stuck in the seat, checking cameras, closing the door, turning on the lights, that's a whole game mechanic. It's designed for you to go through that process every single time, and it does it so in a very smart and unique way to make sure that the player still stays engaged and entertained. This, on the other hand, 7 mazes? That's just cruel. In all honesty, you can say that about any small mechanic inside a game. Like, imagine having to find 7 keys to 7 mystery doors. Oh boy, that sounds exciting. Yay! In my opinion, if you're asking your player to go through the same mechanic a second time, then that's pretty much asking your player to replay the same thing. So it better be different, and there better be something about it that still makes the experience feel new. So after the 3rd memory stone, I knew I had to change it up. But again, I had to make sure that it stuck to the immersive experience of the world, or the lore that I was trying to tell within the game. But luckily for me, I have. People who saw episode 1 knows what that means. I swear, I did not just do something weird. After the 4th memory stone, the player couldn't enter the maze anymore. So if you, the player, were to try to examine the stone, nothing happens. But it gave you the idea to try it in front of your new friend. And when you did, well, she tells you... basically to tell you to find the rest. She has a lot of great lines, and sure, call me immature, but that one's probably like within my top 3. She explains that the memories were all jumbled when they got split, kinda like making a big squiggle on a piece of paper and chopping it into pieces. Alright, so we're gonna have a bit of fun. I bet you thought I was just gonna be sitting here talking to the camera like a complete loser, but no! I am doing something so cool. Ha! Oh, ha! It's a squiggle on a piece of paper. But check this out. I'm gonna rip it out. Fold it up a little bit. And then rip it. Okay. I'm going somewhere with this. Trust me. And let me find a good one. Let me find a really good one for all of y'all. Bam! You see this? Haha! Yeah! Look at that! It's pretty good, eh? You see this one good long length over here? That was memory stone 1. That's the memories you got in that one. And then you see these crossing lines all over the place? Well, this one is a piece of 6. The one underneath it is a piece of 7. This one is a piece of 4. But in this, I don't know, maybe more of 3? Something like that. The bottom line is that what you get is an incoherent piece of memory lodged into one of the memory shards. Now, that one good line there, that one was probably memory shard 3, and that's why you were able to view it. But this one, which is memory shard 4, has a bunch of disconnected ones, which has memory shard 5, 6, 7, and so on, that you can't view it at all. And that's exactly what your friend tells you, and that you gotta somehow figure it out, piece it together, so that you have one good memory to view it all. That was fun. So yes, once you find all the pieces, then you can try to piece them together. I remember just thinking of a way to make it work in terms of the story and immersing it into the world, that when I came up with this, I was pretty dang proud of myself. I was also really hesitant because I had no idea how to make a crystal, pixel art wise. I was like, oh, I don't wanna. Then there was also figuring out the coding behind it. But after a lot of trial and error and taking it piece by piece, one at a time, I figured out that all you do is use pictures yet again, then a bunch of variables for the script call of moving pictures. I essentially had to check if the X, Y, and rotation was the value required for success. By the way, if any of you guys are dev, again, this tutorial I made previously will get you on the right track. So yeah, these are the memory stones. I made it so that it wasn't required to complete since it's all just lore and some people aren't about the lore, but I also made it so that the player had to view them all to get the very last secret memory stone at the end of one of the true ends. When it came to telling the lore and explaining the magic, I didn't want to force feed it down into the player's throat. I wanted to throw hints here and there and have them discover it on their own. Not to be a broken record, but do check out the first video if you haven't gotten the chance. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys liked the video, and if you did, please do so. Drop a comment and consider subscribing. New episodes will be running each week of the month. Ooh, better yet, go try out the game. It's on sale right now. Or if you're a fellow game dev and want to toss something on the side while you develop your game, then check out some of my dev vlogs. I got a dev vlog series for Caster Strap, as well as a movie, one for Captive Yami, and the title I am working on right now, The Haunting of the Jill Wilson Family. Alright, later.